Okay, I've been talking about MLP a lot and I need a palate cleanser. Let me look at my workshopped video ideas and see what I can find. Let's see, Haikyuu, Shaolin Showdown, Why Melee is the worst Smash game. Oh, Kingdom Hearts. Screw it, that's what we're doing today. Now, when a lot of YouTubers and just people in general talk about Kingdom Hearts, they usually open up with this whole prologue about how they've been with the series for years and how special it is to them and yada yada yada. It's a well-known fact that Kingdom Hearts played a big role in the childhoods of a lot of people. I was not one of them. I wouldn't say that I avoided the Kingdom Hearts franchise, it just wasn't something that was in my area of interest. However, most of the fans that I interacted with online definitely didn't help make it look more appealing. You see, Kingdom Hearts fans, and I say this with love, you're annoying.
Hey!
More often than not, when I ask a fan what's good about the series, the most common response is that the story is just so good. And then they start explaining events using in-universe jargon that I cannot possibly understand as an outsider. Now, aside from the fact that this did nothing to explain why the story was good, the gameplay is rarely ever mentioned when a fan explains to me why I should get into the series. And considering that this is a video game we're talking about, gameplay is kinda, important. What finally turned me around was a video by some unknown YouTuber about the legacy of Kingdom Hearts. Unlike most videos about the franchise, this video actually put more emphasis on how each game played rather than their stories. Actually getting an explanation for why a fan enjoyed the mechanics of most of the games was what made me want to give the series a chance. So I picked up the 1.5 and 2.5 collection for PS4, started up Kingdom Hearts 1, and then Persona 5 came out and I didn't touch the collection for over a year. But I eventually did come back to it, and it turned out that the point in Kingdom Hearts 1 that I left off of was actually one of the least liked worlds in the franchise, and it became much more fun from that point onward. I ended up beating Kingdom Hearts 1 in about 2 or so weeks, and while I understood why people liked the franchise, at that point I was a bit lukewarm about the series. My main gripe with the first game was the lack of direction when it came to where I was supposed to go most of the time. I had to be tethered to an online guide throughout my run, and this was yet another aspect of the franchise that I found out was heavily criticized by fans. By the time I got to Kingdom Hearts 2, I walked in expecting the same lack of direction as the first game, but the increased clarity in what I was actually supposed to be doing was one of the first things I noticed about the game, and my enjoyment increased exponentially to the point where I would prefer playing the KH2 prologue several times over spending another second in Deep Jungle. Apparently a lot of the fans disliked the Atlantica rhythm game for some reason. It's like the EXP share in the post-Gen 5 Pokemon games. It's optional, so if you don't like it, don't bother with it. Personally, I love rhythm games. DDR was my jam in elementary and middle school, and while Atlantica isn't quite that, it was still pretty enjoyable in spite of what I'm about to say next. The biggest disappointment for me with Kingdom Hearts 2 was the amount of worlds that were reused. I get that the Hercules world is supposed to be a series mainstay and the Nightmare Before Christmas world spent most of its time in Christmas Town and therefore technically isn't a retread. But even then, it kinda sucks to have this many reused worlds in KH2. Thankfully, this is alleviated by the reused worlds being major improvements over their Kingdom Hearts 1 counterparts. On top of that, the new worlds we got were fantastic, with 2 exceptions. The best thing about the game though? Lion Sora. Kingdom Hearts fans need to get better at selling the appeal of these games, cause you could have skipped all that boring world lore and just tell me that I could have played as a friggin' lion and I would have been sold. Looking at me so goddamn fast! Running circles of life around your ass. Kingdom Hearts 2 was the point where I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I see the appeal. By the time I finished Kingdom Hearts 2, E3 was around the corner, and we got a final release date for Kingdom Hearts 3. Since it was over 6 months away, I took the opportunity to take a break from the series and play other games I had on my radar. And then late January hit and I realized, oh shit, this game comes out in a week. So I did my best to play as much of Birth by Sleep as I could without rushing, and while I wasn't able to finish it in time for Kingdom Hearts 3, I enjoyed what I played. While I still prefer the mechanics of KH2 and 3, the command deck was an interesting diversion that forced me to think more strategically. Since I played every game on the normal difficulty, I got through most of the fights utilizing the same strategy. I couldn't do that anymore. and it forced me to actually look at what moves and items I was taking into a fight. Similar to KH2, the weakest point of Birth by Sleep by far was the worlds. This isn't because of the layouts, as I do understand that this game was made for the PSP and was supposed to accommodate 3 protagonists, but they ended up choosing some of the most dull Disney movies to make worlds from, the only exception being Lilo and Stitch, and even then they chose to only base the world off of the opening scene rather than where the majority of the film takes place, and I do hope that we get a world based on Lilo and Stitch's Hawaii in a future game, especially with the current engine. Which leads me to Kingdom Hearts 3. I didn't play Dream Drop Distance. I was able to get the game a day early and streamed it as soon as I got home, playing through the entirety of the first world, and it left one hell of a good impression. I'm only 80% of the way through, and I can still say that it's the Kingdom Hearts game that I enjoyed the most. Keyblade transformations are the perfect replacement for drive forms, and being able to switch between a set of 3 Keyblades on the fly mid-battle makes combat a lot less of a hassle because I can actually alternate between magic and melee-based blades instead of changing my loadout every time I die. KH3 also has my favorite selection of worlds, with the exception of the Caribbean. Seriously, of all the Disney movies you could have picked, you chose to not only reuse one, but also have it be Pirates of the Caribbean? Of all things? My least favorite part of the game? The cutscenes. Oh my god, the cutscenes. Kingdom Hearts 3 is both front-loaded and back-loaded with a lot of cutscenes, and it's especially bad towards the game's final parts. Once you finish all the Disney worlds, you're just bombarded with cutscene after cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. I've lost count of how many times I've gotten up to pour a glass of water or put food in the oven and just listen to the audio while those scenes played out. Thankfully, unlike other games that bored me this much, there's a skip cutscene feature, which I plan on using with reckless abandon if I ever do a second playthrough. Apparently, a recurring complaint about KH3 was the lack of Final Fantasy characters, and to be honest, I didn't even notice they were gone. Someone had to point it out to me for me to finally go, oh yeah, they are gone. They mattered so little in the grand scheme of things that I barely gave a shit about them. Speaking of things I barely give a shit about in this franchise, the story. In order to explain my feelings about Kingdom Hearts story, I gotta make yet another comparison to Pokemon. Like Pokemon, I see Kingdom Hearts story as an excuse for the gameplay to happen. Unless there are aspects of the story that I find really bad, I just take the story in stride and try my best to pay attention so I can at least know why I'm beating the crap out of whatever I'm beating the crap out of. Of all things, the story in Kingdom Hearts is what I care the least about, but if you've been paying attention to how I've been presenting my thoughts thus far, you probably figured that out for yourself about halfway through. All of my points were about the mechanics of the games, and what got me into the series in the first place was a video about, again, the mechanics. Whenever the next game is announced, I'm not going to care about what's going to happen in the story or where the story will go. I'm going to care about what I'm going to be able to do in the game, what worlds I'll get to explore, and what Disney characters I'll get to meet. That's the main takeaway of the series for me. That's what I enjoy it for. For now, I'm going to make my way through the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and finish Birth by Sleep afterwards. In the end, I'm glad I gave the series a shot, and if I were to name the thing that I love the most about it, it's that Riku finally cut his goddamn hair. Looking at that boy's old hairstyle makes me wonder if comb blades exist. So what did you think of this video? Swarm that comment section below or bug me on social media. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.